The infamous Ouija board, also known as a spirit board or talking board, has captivated the imaginations of people for generations and has been a source of fascination and intrigue for many individuals seeking to communicate with the afterlife. While some view it as a harmless game, others believe it to be a dangerous gateway to the supernatural world. The Ouija board has a rich history shrouded in mystery and mythology, with claims that it can communicate with the dead or spirits from another realm. Despite its use as a harmless game or a tool for entertainment, there have been numerous reports of negative experiences, including possession, haunting, and even death. Many experts of the supernatural and many with religious beliefs caution that the Ouija board is not a game to be taken lightly. It is believed that when someone uses the board, they open themselves up to unseen entities, some of which may have malevolent intentions, and send an invitation for them to join our realm. In this video, we will explore the history surrounding the Ouija board. So, grab a seat, turn off the lights, and join us as we journey into the mysterious world of the Ouija board. The Ouija board is often associated with a technique called automatic writing, spirit writing, or psychography, which is a claimed psychic ability that allows an individual to produce written words without being conscious of writing them. Those who practice automatic writing typically hold a writing instrument and allow alleged spirits to manipulate their hand, resulting in the creation of written messages. The writing instrument used may be a standard writing tool or a specialized one, such as a planchette, specifically designed for automatic writing. The practice of automatic writing has a long and rich history in China, dating back to at least the Song dynasty in 1100 AD, where messages from various deities and spirits were received by mediums. The practice of Fuji, or planchette writing, involves using a specialized instrument to communicate with spirits, and was widely employed as a means of necromancy and communion with the spirit world. The Quanzhen school, one of the two major denominations of Taoism in mainland China, made this practice a central aspect of its beliefs and rituals. However, the Qing dynasty, which ruled China from 1644 to 1911, eventually banned the practice, putting an end to its use for communicating with spirits. Despite the ban on planchette writing, the influence of spirit writing spread through Chinese cultural techniques such as printing and painting. This practice was later adopted by Japanese Zenobaku monks, who were reputed to have communicated with an ancient Taoist sage credited with creating the Kung Fu system. In the West, an early example of the practice is the 16th century Enochian language, an occult constructed language believed by its originators to have been received directly from angels using automatic writing. The language was recorded in the private journals of John Dee and Edward Kelly in late 16th century England. Dee's journals also refer to this language as celestial speech, first language of God Christ, holy language, or language of angels. The language forms an integral part of Enochian magic, a system of ceremonial magic that involves the evocation and commanding of various spirits. During the 19th century in Asia, messages received through spirit writing were instrumental in the formation of several Chinese salvationist religions. These religious traditions in China are characterized by a focus on individual and societal salvation, or moral fulfillment. Meanwhile, spiritualism emerged in the Western world during the 1840s in the upstate New York region. This area had previously seen the rise of religious movements like Millerism and Mormonism during the Second Great Awakening, a Protestant religious revival that swept through the United States with its emotional preachings during the early 19th century. While these movements did not identify with spiritualism, the region was known for its belief that direct communication with God or angels was possible. During the early days of the spiritualist movement, individuals looking for direct personal knowledge of the afterlife were influenced by the writings of Emanuel Swedenborg and the teachings of Franz Mesmer. Swedenborg claimed to have communicated with spirits while awake and described the structure of the spirit world. Two aspects of his view that particularly resonated with early spiritualists were his assertion that there were multiple heavens and hells rather than a single one, and his belief that spirits acted as intermediaries between God and humans and could be used by the divine as a means of communication. While Swedenborg warned against actively seeking out spirit contact, his work seemed to have inspired others to do so. Franz Mesmer introduced a technique that became known as hypnotism, which was believed to induce trances and allow individuals to communicate with supernatural beings. Although he did not espouse any particular religious beliefs, mesmerism was often demonstrated with a theatrical flair, and practitioners in North America during the mid-19th century sought to both entertain and teach their audiences methods for achieving spiritual connection. The Fox sisters, Leah, Maggie, and Kate, played a crucial role in the emergence of spiritualism. In 1848, the family lived in an allegedly haunted house in Hydesville, New York, where they began experiencing unexplained sounds such as knocking and moving furniture. On the night of March 31st, Kate, aged 11, challenged the presumed spirit to repeat the snaps of her fingers, and it did. The neighbors were called in, and a code was developed to communicate with the spirit through yes or no responses and letters of the alphabet. The entity was initially addressed as Mr. Splitfoot, a nickname for the devil, but later claimed to be the spirit of a murdered peddler named Charles B. Rosna, murdered and buried in the cellar 5 years earlier. After witnessing the Fox sisters' demonstrations, Amy and Isaac Post, a progressive Quaker duo and close friends of the family, welcomed the girls into their home in Rochester. Impressed by the authenticity of the events, they shared the news with their like-minded Quaker acquaintances, who formed the initial group of spiritualists. On the 14th of November, 1849, the Fox sisters held their first public demonstration of spiritualist snaps at Corinthian Hall in Rochester, which marked the birth of spiritualism in the public eye. Their subsequent public seances in New York in 1850 drew crowds of notable figures, but also attracted many imitators claiming to communicate with spirits. Despite this, Kate and Margaretta continued to gain recognition as mediums and held seances for hundreds of people. While some of these early seances were frivolous, with sitters seeking guidance on trivial matters, the religious significance of communicating with the deceased soon became evident. Horace Greeley, a prominent publisher and politician, supported the Fox sisters and helped them gain access to higher social circles. Kate and Margaretta, who had once been celebrated mediums, developed drinking problems as they grew older. In 1888, a quarrel with their sister Leah and other spiritualist leaders arose over concerns that Kate's drinking was affecting her ability to care for her children. Seeking revenge against Leah, the sisters traveled to New York City, where a reporter offered them $1,500 to expose their methods and give him an exclusive story. Margaretta performed in front of 2,000 people at the New York Academy of Music, demonstrating how she could produce snaps audible throughout the theater at will, which doctors from the audience who came on stage verified as coming from the cracking of her toe joints. Margaretta later tried to recant her confession, but their reputation was ruined. Within 5 years, both sisters had died in poverty. Despite this scandal, the popularity of the spiritualism movement continued to grow. The spiritualist movement commonly marks the start of its emergence as March 31st, 1848, on the night when Kate challenged the presumed spirit to repeat the snaps of her fingers. As the years went by, public demonstrations of mediumship, including seances and automatic writing, became a lucrative business and increasingly popular forms of both entertainment and spiritual release. Spiritualism held a strong appeal for those grieving the loss of a loved one, especially during times of war such as the American Civil War and World War I. Many families who had lost soldiers to the war saw their loved ones depart and never return, and the widespread use of photography only served to amplify their grief, as they could see the graphic and gruesome nature of their deaths. One famous example is Mary Todd Lincoln, who organized seances in the White House after the loss of her son, which was attended by her husband, President Abraham Lincoln. The surge of interest in spiritualism during these periods can be seen as a response to the overwhelming loss of life and the need for comfort and catharsis. In 1886, reports began circulating in newspapers about a new phenomenon, the talking board, that was sweeping through Ohio. A few years later, in 1890, the Ouija board was created through the collaboration of Charles Kennard, Elijah Bond, and Washington Bowie, who founded the Kennard Novelty Company. According to Kennard, the name Ouija was revealed to him through the board itself, and he claimed it was an ancient Egyptian word meaning good luck. The Ouija board was marketed as a family-friendly game that could provide answers about the past, present, and future, and was commonly used by families to communicate with spirits. In the early 1890s, the Ouija board phenomenon swept through the nation and quickly gained popularity, with around 2,000 boards sold each week. William Fuld, who invested in the company and eventually gained control of the Ouija business, popularized the more widely accepted etymology that the name came from a combination of the French and German words for yes. Fuld went on to make millions manufacturing the board, but not before a bitter legal battle with his brother Isaac, who was cut out of the company. Their feud became so intense that Isaac had his baby daughter exhumed and relocated from the Fuld family gravesite during a cemetery renovation. The two sides of the family did not speak for nearly a century. Tragically, William Fuld suffered a fatal accident at his Harford Avenue factory, a building he claimed the Ouija board had instructed him to construct. While overseeing the installation of a flag, an iron railing gave way, and he fell off the roof. It wasn't until 4 decades later that Fuld's family finally sold the Ouija board to Parker Brothers, which promptly moved the business to its base of operations in Salem. In 1967, the first year the company was headquartered in the town infamous for its witch trials, Ouija sold 2 million boards. Even before its first film appearances in Hollywood's early days, Ouija was already a sensation. The public perception of the Ouija board has always been complex. It was intended to liven up parties or encourage romantic encounters. Early advertisements often depicted couples sitting with the board on their knees, their hands resting on the planchette. In 1920, Norman Rockwell, who often painted the revealing moments of everyday life, did a painting of a young man and woman playing with an Ouija board for the cover of the Saturday Evening Post. The Ouija board's role as a source of inspiration and a tool for automatic writing among renowned novelists and poets is often overlooked. For instance, Pulitzer Prize winner James Merrill wrote notes from Ouija consultations for his 560-page epic poem, The Changing Light at Sandover. Similarly, Sylvia Plath penned Dialogue over a Ouija board, a work that bears testament to the board's influence on her creative process. Over time, the Ouija board's once innocent reputation, one that had no affiliation with either good or evil, began to morph into something more menacing, due in part to Hollywood's use of the board for more sinister themes. In The Exorcist, for instance, actress Linda Blair's character Reagan recounts how she used her family's Ouija board to communicate with Captain Howdy, the demon that eventually possesses her. It was after this film that the board became synonymous with the occult. During the 1970s and 1980s, a wave of unfounded reports about satanic ritual abuse swept the nation, fueling a moral panic. This hysteria spread to include a fear of Ouija boards and other occult objects, which was intensified by the prevalence of occult artifacts in popular media. Throughout history, individuals and groups with strict religious beliefs have vehemently reacted to frequent depictions of demonic objects. In 2001, fundamentalist groups in Alamogordo, New Mexico burned Ouija boards alongside Harry Potter books, believing them to be symbols of witchcraft. More mainstream religious criticism has claimed that Ouija boards reveal information that should be known by God alone, making them a tool of Satan. This disdain and rejection of the occult stem from a deep-seated reverence for the natural and a belief that anything unnatural is to be feared. The public's fear and fascination with occult objects, including Ouija boards, has been fueled by various factors, including pop culture and media, as well as reports of harm associated with using them. One such case is that of Michael McCallum, who in 1995 used an Ouija board with Michael Eerie, a younger boy he lured to his apartment. The board spelled out the word "kill," and McCallum ended up stabbing Eerie to death, claiming Satan told him to do it. Such incidents have contributed to the public's apprehension and curiosity whenever Ouija boards appear in the news. The unsettling accounts of crimes and mishaps associated with Ouija boards both alarm and captivate us. Our fascination with the existential and our apprehension toward the unknown fuel the ongoing discourse surrounding this object. The allure of supposed supernatural objects continues to intrigue us, even as they provoke our unease. The Ouija board has consistently been depicted as a hazardous object in horror movies and other forms of media. Depending on one's beliefs, this device can be viewed as a mere inanimate object, a manifestation of sacred terror, or a stereotypical horror cliché. But remember, if you use an Ouija board, as a believer or not, remember to say goodbye. Have you or anyone you know ever experienced something while or after using an Ouija board? Leave your stories in the comments. If you enjoyed and want to support the channel, please leave a like and subscribe.